Hello everybody, and you're very welcome back to the channel. So a couple of weeks ago I put out a request for all you Ford experts. So anyone who's an expert in Ford or knows a little bit more about Ford tractors than I do, I wanted your top 10. So here we go. We've had the John Deere top 10, we've had the Massey Ferguson top 10, and now this is the turn of Ford. So yeah, I got, I'd say easily probably 50 or 60 between here on YouTube and TikTok, Facebook. A few other people contacted me. I got a list of between 50 and 60 different top 10s from different people who know a hell of a lot more about Ford tractors than I do. So I put it all together. It's not necessarily my list. I've compiled it, but it was voted for by all the viewers on TikTok and on YouTube and on Facebook. So if you want someone to give out there, if you don't agree with it, no, it's not necessarily my list. I'm only just throwing it out there. I've compiled, I put them all together. I've compiled what I believe from the list of 50 I've got is the top 10. So here we're going to kick it off. We're not going to waste any time. We're going to get through it pretty quick. There's no huge surprises in here. I would have been able to pick five myself, at least 5 or 6 of these top 10s myself, but I just needed a bit of expertise to finish it off and to put them in the correct order. So starting off at number 10, we're looking at the Ford 7600. So obviously a very popular tractor here in Ireland, had that super Q cab. It was built between 1975 and 1981. That famous Ford 4.2 litre Ford engine, developing something in around 95 odd horsepower, 8 or 16 speed dual power transmission, open center hydraulic system, which produced something like 12.5 gallons per minute. So moving on then, we're going to go down to number 9. We're looking at the Ford 3000. Very, very popular here back in the 60s and the 70s. Would have been out around the same time as obviously the Massey Ferguson 100 series, and it would have been a rival tractor, of course, for the 100 series. So hugely popular machine in Ireland and the UK, built between 1965 and 1975. 2.9 litre 3-cylinder diesel engine at 47 horsepower from the little 3-cylinder engine. Now these engines did have, some of these Ford engines were famous for being a little bit porous, and there was upgrades to them. I know the 3-cylinder engine, that porous engine, there was the 6X was the one that had the issues. It was updated then to the 6Y in 1968, and it did more or less fix the issues that Ford were having at the time with their engine blocks. A lot of people blame the type of coolant or antifreeze that was being used, or maybe there wasn't enough of it. I don't know exactly what the technical reasons for it was, but they were fairly famous for it. And Ford's own engineers themselves admitted to this, and they, held their hands up and they did do something about it. So moving on to number 8 then really quickly, the 6600. I don't look at, this is a Ford. I don't know exactly how you pronounce these model numbers. So to me, it's a 6600 or 6600. I don't know. Anyway, 6600 to me, 1975 to 1981. And that was, a perfect size utility tractor. I have driven one of these tractors down through the years. I remember back in the 90s being sent off to deliver one that was secondhand and a brand new John Deere baler to somebody who had bought the two of them as a pair. I do remember being sent off to deliver one on an hour's drive. A nice little thing, nice little machine to drive. But obviously, they were getting on at that stage. That was around the 90s. I was driving. It would have been out of production in 1981. So it would have been pretty old at that stage. It would have been moving on. But a nice little tractor, that 4.2 litre Ford diesel engine, a Ford 4-cylinder diesel engine, 72 horsepower, that lovely little bubble cab on it that they were famous for. And it came with an 8-speed transmission or 16-speed dual power transmission. The next one then, and it's the first of the big girls, it's the TW25. Now when I looked at the TWs, there was a lot of people, TW35, TW15, TW25. They're all very, very similar, and it was hard to pick one from the other. So I split it down the middle and I went for the TW25 because I could have easily put the TW15, 25, 35, TW30 in. You could put a lot of those in, but I wanted to go down the middle someplace. The TW25, I think, was the one that was most popular. And it was just hit that sweet spot in the middle when it came to size and horsepower. So it was around 156 horsepower. Very popular with tillage men and silage men. Nice long bonnet on with the fuel tank way out front. And It was built between 1985 and 1989. It had that 6.6 litre turbocharged engine at, as I said, 156 horsepower. Very popular in Ireland and the UK. Lovely long bonnet, sliding side panels, and front mounted fuel tank. The Series 2 was introduced in 1988. It obviously had better hydraulics and it had stronger rear end, some stronger rear end components added, and it was replaced obviously in 1989 by the 8630. Moving on to number 6 then, the 8970. This is part of the Genesis series, and these are a model of truck that I always love. I always love the look of the Genesis series with that optional super steer system on the front of them. Fantastic machine. They were a lovely, lovely looking machine to see. Built between 1993 and 2002. 6-cylinder 7.5 litre turbocharged engine at 240 horsepower. Now you will see a few of these at modern day tractor pulling events doing very, very well. 16 speed full power shift transmission or 32 speed with an optional creeper. Closed arm hydraulics with load sensing, of course, and I said with that fantastic super steer system on them. And as always, these videos are sponsored by the Agrimotive store. So if you haven't visited the Agrimotive store yet, please do so. And if you want to subscribe to our mailing list, we have new stock. We have new stock coming on pretty much every week. We've got new grain moisture meters, measuring tools, loads of different stuff coming on every week that we're testing and trialing before we put onto the store. So if you want to go and check out the store and check out what's there, and if you want to subscribe to the mailing list, you'll hear about it when it comes out first. Anyway, next one, number 5, the 6810, hugely, hugely popular in Ireland. That Generation 3 was a fantastic, beautiful looking machine, built from 1988 to 1991, that Generation 3. That had the Super Q cab, 90 horsepower, 4.4 litre, 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine. Obviously it had the dual power, 16-speed forward and 8-speed reverse with an optional creeper. Hydraulics were open center with a closed center valves. So obviously came in 2- and 4-wheel drive, and the hydraulic pump was capable of putting out 70 litres per minute. Now these were a lovely looking machine, nice compact machine, good power to weight ratio on them, and an excellent all-round performer. Popular with all different types of farmers, certainly across Ireland anyway. They were moving up a step then, the 8210. The 8210 was always known as being a hugely reliable machine. It was popular with tillage because it did have good size and it had good low down torque. It was good for pulling the likes of ploughs and heavy tillage equipment. Wasn't overly powerful. It was torquey, but it wasn't overly powerful. It did have that 6.6 litre engine, a gross horsepower of 115. But it was a normally aspirated engine, so you usually found that a lot of people did turbo them just to get that little bit out of them, because they were a big tractor, just a little bit underpowered for the size of them. Of course, again, the dual power transmission, and as I said, yeah, they were a little bit underpowered for the size, but they were a very, very reliable machine, very popular machine, and there's still plenty of them out there. And again, as always, with all of these Ford tractors, hugely, hugely desired at this stage, and they are, of course, all collector's items. So getting into the nitty gritty of it now, and a tractor that I think when it's fully restored or when it's new and it's shining, it looks incredible, and that is the Ford 7000. There was just something about the cab and the style of the cab. Everything just seemed to be in proportion on these tractors. So the 7000 was built from 1971 to 1975, 93 horsepower from that 4.2 litre engine, turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, 8-speed constant mesh gearbox or the 16-speed dual power transmission. And anyone who has not seen Even Flow's YouTube video, 43 Harvests, I would urge you to go out and look at it, because the Ford 7000 that features in that video, as well as a few other things that feature in that video, is definitely well worth looking at. Yeah, a super looking machine, powerful for the size of it, 93 horsepower, turbocharged 4.2 litre engine, and yeah, fantastic looking machine and an icon of Fords. It was, it was close to getting a little bit higher on the list, but I went for number 2, the Ford 5000. Just pipped it at the post. Similar tractors to look at, similar type style cabs. 5000, I think, was just a little bit more of an all-rounder. 68 horsepower, 3.8 litre 4-cylinder diesel engine, and the Force 5000 model was a 4.2, and that was up to 75 horsepower, normally aspirated engines, so 8-speed manual, 10-speed select-o-matic transmission, or of course the 16-speed dual power. So that's at number 2, and that was described or defined as a real bread and butter machine, and which is true, and there are still loads of Ford 5000s and indeed 7000s floating around Ireland, and again, highly sought after collector's item. Yeah, lovely looking machine, very, very reliable. So number 1, who can guess? Well, obviously I haven't mentioned one of Ford's most famous and popular tractors yet on the top 10, so I do not think it would be any surprise when I say that the Ford 7810, and in particular the Generation 3, is the number 1. So when we look at the 7810, it is of course something of a hybrid machine. It's a tractor that really never was supposed to be, and it does feature the 6-cylinder engine that was in the 7910, and what they've done was they took that engine and put it into the chassis of the 7610. So here you have a 6-cylinder engine in a 4-cylinder tractor chassis, which made it a very powerful, very compact, great power to weight ratio machine, which was, as nimble around a yard, a stockman's yard, as it would be out in the field pulling a 4 or 5 for a plough, which it would have had plenty of power for. So yeah, it is a type of a hybrid tractor. As I said, the 4-cylinder engine out of the 7910, or the 6-cylinder engine out of the 7910, fitted to the chassis of a 7610, and it came in at a weight of only 3.5 tonne with a lift capacity of 4.3 tonne. So of course produced in Basildon, and it actually was produced in Antwerp as well, the factory in Antwerp. 6.6 litre engine at 98 horsepower in the Force 2 models, and then it was uprated to 103 horsepower in the Gen 3 models. Of course, that Super Q cab, many of course which were later fitted with a turbocharged engine, aftermarket turbos, dual power transmission of course. There was the Silver Jubilee then that was launched to celebrate Ford's 25 years at Basildon, and that was in 1989. Now, initially when they came out, I couldn't get exact figures on how many of them were actually built, but there was believed, some said it was 150 built, some said it was 500 built. I couldn't get actual figures on how many were built. It's someplace in between that. Initially, there was one built for each dealer in the UK and Ireland, and the dealers did actually have trouble selling them because of the colour of them at the time, and what a lot of dealers done was they sprayed over them. So they sprayed them blue. I actually do think they look better blue. I wouldn't be gone on the look at the silver one, but of course now if you had a Silver Jubilee 7810 now, you have a little crock gold sitting in your farm or wherever in your collection. They did look better in blue, but they did, Ford dealers, anyone that had the silver ones, found them hard to sell, and they did spray them blue, back to blue. So there are a few of them out there that are blue, and people are discovering them now, that they are actually a Silver Jubilee model, and they're putting them back to silver, and they've got a little gold mine. So that's it. That's the top 10 Ford tractor models. I'm no expert on Ford. I don't admit to be. I have driven them, and I do like them. I do like the look of them. That 7810, 6810 series, the Gen 3 especially, they are a very, very smart tractor, and of course fantastically reliable. So please, anyone that has any experience with Ford, if you are a Ford man, if you've got a shed full of Fords, good or bad or indifferent, please drop a comment into the comment section. Now, I do have a video coming up in the next week, dealing in specifically with Ford after Fordson. So if that changeover from when Fordson, wrapped up into the Ford tractors, I have a video coming up on that. So from the 70s into the 80s, that range of Ford tractors, I have a video coming up on that, and the Basildon plant as well. I've been working on that for a while. It was a little bit hard to get some decent information, but it is coming up. It'll be a good 20-25 minute history video on the Ford tractors from the 1970s and 80s. So that's it. That's it for today. Enjoy your weekend, everybody, and I will see everybody next week. And thanks for watching as always.